Welcome to the Habits and Hustle Podcast, a podcast that uncovers the rituals, unspoken habits, and mindsets of extraordinary people. A podcast powered by Habit Nest. Now here's your host, Jennifer Cohen.
What podcasts do you listen to, if you do listen to podcasts?
Well, I was a big fan of Serial.
I know, everyone loves that one.
I was listening, most recently I've been listening to this podcast about the DC sniper called Monster. It's quite freaky.
Oh, wow. So
Do you remember that?
I don't, but I know that the crime area is so popular. I feel like it's just like that space of the podcasting world is huge.
Yeah, he was it was like right after 9/11 in 2002, and there was a sniper who was like killing people at random. Well, there were two of them. They were killing people at random across the DC area.
Oh, wow.
It's very freaky. But my favorite podcast, and then I like how I built this, and I
like that one too.
Yeah, it's in your vein. And I wrote actually to the host, Guy Raz, and I said, you should do one with my dad. And he did. And people always come up to me because they talk about how it came together and that I had written him and all this stuff. And people always talk about that. But my dad had no clue what it was and literally could have cared less and gave, in my opinion, the worst interview I've ever seen him give. But people seem to love it. But my favorite podcast, without a doubt, is S-Town, if you've ever listened.
No. But then again, you're 30 years old, right?
29.
Excuse me. I didn't want to age you. So is that what the kids are listening to right now? Like that type of thing? I feel like most people your age are listening to like Call Her Daddy or not Call Her Daddy. What's that? A lot of, that's a very bro one.
That's bro.
That's very bro. But you don't really seem like a bro.
The kids are on TikTok.
The kids are all on TikTok.
TikTok's where it's at.
I was saying yesterday that I feel like, you know how with Facebook, when all the old people like me went on, well, not me, like my mom, people went to Instagram. You know, now I feel like all the old people are on Instagram and now everyone's moving over to TikTok.
The old people were on Facebook and then...
Yeah, now it's not cool anymore. When the old people start going to that platform, nobody wants, like the youngsters like you, or even younger than you, go onto a different platform.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny though, you saw that with Snapchat and then... And then Instagram just kind of like adopted Snapchat's technology. And then I think kind of Snapchat became a little less relevant than it had been prior to Instagram putting stories on. So, I mean, it all comes and goes. And I think some are here for the long haul. I think that TikTok is like uniquely fascinating. And if the goal is, if the concept is that in today's world, we're all on our phones so much. And like your phone can provide you more entertainment and capture more sort of market share of your day than anything else, the way that television once did. I really don't, and we'll see, but I don't think there's like a better, more suited medium and platform for that than TikTok. Just it's like so short and it's so energetic and like it's sort of this meritocracy. And I don't know that much about it, but it's like a meritocracy where it's like not about how many followers, it's about how much your video gets viewed quickly. So it's like, it's an amazing platform. I'm deeply into TikTok.
No, I'm
not on it myself, but I mean, I look at it, but I'm not like creating TikToks myself.
I know. But you should, because it was called Musical.ly. Do you remember when it was called Musical.ly and now it's this? But besides doing these like songs and dances on it, what else can people really do on it, right? Not much.
The songs okay, fine. So maybe it's a little vapid because could you change the world on TikTok? I think you can use it as an entree to do so. But to your point, it's these very short videos and how much can you really say? But there is more than the dancing. There's like funny videos and sports things and politics and there's stuff. But yeah, the dancing. I weirdly, when I was in LA, I was over at a friend of mine's house and there was like a TikTok superstar there and she was telling me all about...
There's a TikTok superstar already?
Oh my God, there's TikTok superstars, yeah.
Really? Who's like one TikTok superstar that you met?
I don't know. This girl's name was Alyssa. I couldn't even tell you, but she's got like something like 14 million TikTok followers or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, go ahead. You met this girl on... You
There's
said you're
no
in
more to
LA?
the story. I was just saying that she was breaking down to me like how she puts her TikToks together and it was all very fascinating.
What did she say? I'm curious.
She was showing me like the dance and essentially like you find something that's kind of catching steam, and then you recreate it, and then you sort of put it side by side next to the original, but you have to have some sort of like interesting hook. Like she would do something where she'd be doing it, but then something would happen, and then like they would disappear, and more people would come, and it's an interest. It's like little miniature stories.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think also we haven't even seen what it's going to be capable of, right? Like it's going to obviously roll out and there's going to be lots of other morphosis of it, right? And this is just the beginning. By the way, I should say, we went right into it. This is Gus. He runs Rolling Stone magazine and the media, right? Like that's basically what you do. You took over for your father 4 years ago? 3 years ago? Something
like that. I mean, there was my dad founded it in 1967, and over the course of 50 years, built it into what it became, and had all sorts of peaks and valleys along the way, but did something really special. In my opinion, sort of changed the world. And
it was a cultural, like of all publications, that was like, not only was that hip and cool, it was like a cultural statement in a way, right? Like if you were on the cover of Rolling Stone, it was like the biggest thing in the world. It was like Time magazine, bigger than Time magazine in some respect, right? Do you remember, because you're young, right? When you were like, I guess you saw it with your father, right? But did you realize what like an impact it had in like pop culture?
Definitely. I think at a young age, it was clear to me that it was very important, right in the middle of pop culture. I think the covers, of course, but really more the journalism.
Yeah,
right?
The journalism, like, amazing.
Yeah, and like you'd see stories come out like Michael Hastings' story on General McChrystal, and then a week later, Obama is up there talking about the story, and then McChrystal gets let go from his post because of that report. So it's like I was able to see how critical this work was. And I think the way that both my parents lived their life and everything they created for themselves was always about that journalism and the music and their political beliefs and wanting to see a more progressive society, and how music could be a vehicle to achieve that. And that, for that reason, it resonated a ton, and all the things that were around me made sense, and felt kind of soulful, and not like, whoa, that's cool or that's interesting, but like way more than that. Like I understand, I mean, this is what I was working towards, but like I understand why this is important and why my dad had dedicated his life to it. But to answer your original question, when I graduated from school in 2012 from college, I started working for the chief digital officer at the time, and it was a company called Wenner Media, which owned Us Weekly and another magazine called Men's Journal, as well as Rolling Stone, and really was tasked with building the website. And then eventually I took over the role of chief digital officer, and the guy that I was working for went to work at Apple, and he was a really brilliant individual himself and taught me a lot. But and then there just came a moment where, obviously, with the internet coming along and the print industry kind of in decline, we had to make really what I saw as drastic and aggressive moves in order to build around and grow our most powerful asset with the most potential in Rolling Stone. So that's when I really kind of like stepped into the leadership role and led the sale of Us, led the sale of Men's Journal, and then ultimately the sale of Rolling Stone, which we sold to a company called PMC. And now I run Rolling Stone. But that's been an unbelievable situation for us, because it's taken us out of a mode of like figuring out how to, we had a lot of corporate debt, figure out how to pay down all that corporate debt and deal with, and now have the resources and infrastructure to really grow and capture this enormous opportunity around an iconic brand that's recognized around the globe, like not just in America, but around the world. So I feel very fortunate to be in this position, and it's an amazing opportunity, and I love doing it.
I mean, that's a lot of it looks to me from the outside, you've done a good job, because I saw with like numbers, like you've really built out the digital portion, which is where everyone's going. And the visitors you get monthly, like it's kind of, like you said, everything has an ebb and a flow and peak and valleys. I feel like it's really having a moment again where it's really on the rise, right? Because you are taking advantage of like, you have your finger on the pulse, so to speak, of like what's kind of relevant and current, and you're kind of creating that again with your brand.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. That's the goal. I mean, our biggest, the thing that we think about most every day across everything we do, the website, our social media platforms, the magazine, our film initiatives, our events initiatives, is how do we leverage this incredible history, this emotional connection that people have had with Rolling Stone for so long, people have read it for so long, but leverage that in a way where we're really taking risks and evolving and trying new things. And I think if you look at the last 18 to 24 months, we've been very aggressive, like pushing forward. I wish I could talk about our next cover. The current cover, I don't know if you've seen it.
Isn't that Lizzo?
Is Lizzo, shot by David LaChapelle, and it's a stunning image.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's like, and then the story's amazing, written by one of our writers, Brittany Spanos, who's young and super talented. But we have so many projects going on across the board. We're making a 4-part or 3-part docu-series on Showtime about the rise and fall of Tekashi 6ix9ine.
I saw that. Can you explain, like, so you oversee content then as well? Like you have your finger in that as well, right? It's not just like my question is, are you involved in the minutia of saying, okay, this is what I want to do, let's make this happen? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm responsible for everything we do on the creative side and on the business side.
But a lot of times people say that, like, I'll just figure, like, but then, and then you get the like, okay, the final okay. But are you one of those leaders, I guess, where you are constantly wanting to pick the different content to make that? You said, yes, I want to have Lizzo, I want to do this, like, or how does it work in your structure?
I mean, it's a collaborative process. My goal is to have really talented people on our team and let them spread their wings and do things, but be a really collaborative resource for them.
Like, how do you lead is my question. Like, what's your leadership style?
Well, I think it depends on the day, but ultimately, look, I think people passion resonates with people. And I could not feel more strongly about this opportunity we have from a business perspective and this opportunity we have from a sort of cultural impact perspective. I also feel that the world needs Rolling Stone. Like, if we're at our best, we are making the world a better place. And whether that's for people who just love music, or movies and television and art, or the political landscape, I think that there have been times where we haven't been at our best and aren't, like, not to sound corny, but like changing the world. But that's the goal, and that's our opportunity. So we've had a lot of change. We've gone through a major transition. We're making a lot of progress, but we need to strive to be making the world a better place through our storytelling, through our journalism, through the video we create, through the stories we tell, the photographs that we take. And I think we're on our way to getting to that place in a very modern way.
Is it difficult, like,
But I didn't really answer your question.
No, you didn't.
Guess. I didn't. But the point is that I think
a couple. How about this? How about give me a couple qualities that you have that you think make you a really good leader?
Well, I'm not just going to claim that I am, but
okay, I'm going to say, like, well, you're running a big media conglomerate, right? Like, you're overseeing it. You're taking over for your dad. I guess my question's twofold. My first part of the question, really, what I'm really curious about, like, is it hard to take over for your father who, like, is it difficult, like, day to day? Like, you feel like you have to prove yourself even more because of when someone, like, when this kind of situation happens and like you're like the offspring of your father, do you feel like you need to constantly have to like prove yourself and show that you're capable and qualified?
The question beneath the question. Okay,
Yes.
but with your first question, I was arriving at a point, which is that I think that
you were kind of roundabout, so I wanted to.
I was roundabout, and there was an end,
Okay.
and here's the end.
Okay.
I think people respond to passion and belief.
Yeah, I know that you said that, and I agree with you. So you're passionate.
I really am like about this thing. Not only am I passionate, but
Yeah.
like I believe we can be something. We're already important and big. I believe we can be massive. And I think that when people look in someone's eye and you actually believe something, whether it's like your own staff or someone that you're just met for the first time, like you can tell.
It's infectious, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. Like if someone actually has that like authentic like passion for something, it is infectious. People feel it and they want to be around it. So that's a great I think a great quality to have. So you actually have a genuine passion for it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the second part of the question?
Well, the second part of the question, which also relates to the first question, is I've always been young for what I'm doing, and yes, dealing with the notion that the son of the founder, formerly the owner, and that was a bit different than today, where my dad is not. It's a different format since we sold it. But I've always believed that the proof is in the pudding, and the results are the results. And when I came on was the beginning of a really, really difficult time for the media industry, particularly traditional media companies like Condé Nast and Hearst and ourselves and whatnot. So
it's amazing that you guys actually and I know that you kind of spearheaded the whole process, which is amazing. And so many brands who are also like the brand itself had such a huge iconic name and like they dissipated, they're gone. You know what I mean? And you were able, to your credit, not to maintain it, but even keep on elevating it, which is that's a great thing. You know, You don't see that very often.
So it never bothered me. It didn't slow me down. Like I'm aware of the dynamics and want to be respectful of the dynamics. But there was too much on the line, and there is too much on the line, and it's too important to have it slow down what we're doing. And if we are putting numbers on the board and growing, I mean, when I came on, the website had like 5 or 6 million unique visitors. Now we have like 30 million unique visitors. We're publishing over 70 stories a day. We have 30 million followers across our social channels. And you had the magazine. Like the audience is big now across a lot of platforms. And so results, I think people respect that. And I wouldn't respect myself or want to feel right doing what I'm doing, or probably be given the opportunity to do what I'm doing if the results weren't there. So that I've always looked at it through that lens, is that the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, because like you said, like that does make a big difference, right? If it was failing, right, and it was plummeting, then you're right.
I shouldn't be doing this.
Absolutely, exactly. But you must have had quite when you were younger, I was going to say, what did you always want to get into this business? Did you ever have like did you think that you would take a different path?
I played music, and that, I think I thought I just loved like playing guitar and singing, writing songs. And
do you still do that?
Like I play sometimes, but not a ton. I'm like, the schedule is pretty busy, but I have guitars in my house, and we'll mess around, and I'm friends with a lot of people that are great players and whatever. And we mess around, but I certainly listen to music constantly.
Right. You must be a great library. Like I bet you have like some great like things that I would never know of because I just wouldn't be exposed to it. You must have a great the best playlists ever. Yes.
I do have some good playlists.
I can imagine. What's your favorite type of music?
Wow.
Like who's your favorite artist?
My number one is Bob Dylan. I just think as a writer, as a lyricist, as a singer, as a poet, like to me, he's the most important American creative person in the last 100 years at least.
I think people agree with you. A lot of people would agree with that. Have you got to meet? I'm sure you met him like a bazillion times.
I've met. Yes, yeah. I spent some time with him, and it was amazing.
That's
each
amazing.
Time. Yes.
Okay, and so, so name another person that you love, like current person.
Yeah. Well, to that end, there's so many people from that era that I love, and I would say that Van Morrison to me is one of my favorites. Sam Cooke, Lee Scratch Perry. I love reggae and soul music and gospel music. I love hip hop. I put Notorious B.I.G. up there, honestly, in my most upper echelon in terms of lyricists and storytellers. Not at Bob Dylan, but maybe like one echelon below. And then in terms of today, there's so much good music that's coming out. I'm a big fan of a girl called Yola, who just got nominated for Best New Artist at the Grammys. And
what does she sing? Would I know the song? No. I watched the Grammys.
You might not. She has a record called Walk Through the Fire.
Do you like Billie? Is she like kind of like a Billie Eilish kind of? Or
No, she's kind of like a soul country singer. She's from England, but she's recorded in Nashville with Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys. There's a guy called Marcus King, who's an incredible guitar player who I really like a lot right now. Probably my favorite record of late in the last couple years was a record by a guy called Sturgill Simpson. The record's called A Sailor's Guide to Earth. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. And that's fantastic. He's like a country guy, but kind of like on the he does it like differently. Yeah. And then I don't know. There's so much. I love Chance the Rapper's record Coloring Book. Is it Coloring Book? Is that what yeah. Coloring Book, yeah. I love Chance the Rapper. Okay. I think Kendrick Lamar's great. To Pimp a Butterfly. I was just thinking about that. That's like my favorite album title, To Pimp a Butterfly of like what the...
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And that whole record. So I don't know. There's so much good music going out. And yeah, Billie Eilish really talented.
I just feel there's so many people that like the people who are usually the best are people you're just... you'd never heard of before. And that's kind of unfortunate. Like you kind of are you in a position kind of like if you like someone, like you think they're super talented because you get exposed to so much, I would think that you guys can like break an artist, right? Because you can help promote it on all your channels. Like that's big. Like you probably have more power than a record label kind of, right? Because they need you.
Yeah, we're part of the process. Right? I mean, some like the two of the people that I named who are just coming up, Yola and Marcus King, they came to my offices and played, and I was just like stunned. And in fact, and then ended up becoming friends with them and getting to know them better. And like immediately we ran stories on both of them, and actually with Yola, like took a photograph of her that day that we then ran huge as an opening spread in the next issue and then online. And I think that was helped a lot for her. You know, it was a huge, I think it was probably her biggest exposure to date. But there's so many ways for an artist to break now, and Spotify is really important. They have their thing, New Music Friday, that carries a lot of weight. So it's a different universe now, but we play an important part. And certainly, I mean, we have this event tonight, and I was over with DJ Khaled yesterday, and he was just talking, who's performing at our event with all of his friends. But he was saying, just talking to me about the importance of the cover. He's like, there's nothing more important in music than that. And I've had a lot of people, and I don't know whether people just blow smoke up my ass or not.
Probably a little bit.
But like, I mean,
but at least at least you're self-aware enough to know that people are kind of blowing smoke up your ass once in a while. Right?
Well, I think more than once in a while. But
I'm trying to be polite. I don't know you that well yet, you know?
That was blowing smoke up my ass.
Well, I was going to say, like, but I think it's kind of like you have to have the self-awareness. You seem to have it, that like that's kind of like what happens sometimes, right?
But here's the bottom line is like you look at the Lizzo cover, right? That image, I don't think you can produce that image and have that level of importance and impact anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? I
agree.
So to me, like you could blow smoke up my ass all you want with this subject, but back to the proof being in the pudding, like if you create an iconic image like that carries the cultural significance it does because it's the cover of Rolling Stone, And people are like, whoa. And in 20 years from now, when Lizzo's like a legend and getting her Lifetime Achievement Award at whatever, and that image lives on. It's not just like one random thing along the way. Like it's a defining moment in her career. So the work is what matters.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like, do you remember the Britney Spears
yes.
cover you did?
Yes.
I feel like that was huge for her. Like I think when people like do profiles on people all the time, they bring up like that picture of her, right? Or a lot of people, like a lot of artists that I've even
By the way, it was shot by the same guy.
I know, he's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy, like, I feel he does, like, most of his stuff is pretty iconic. I mean, if you get him to shoot your photos, like, that's pretty amazing, right?
With the right subject.
With the right, yeah. I mean, Lizzo, though, like, I feel like most of the people who get on the cover, it's not just, there's a bigger thing behind it, right? Like she's kind of has a movement going, body positivity right now, and she's huge for more than for lots of different reasons. Billie Eilish too, right? But what I was going to say is like it's interesting, like when you meet these people, that's the picture of whatever if they're on the cover that they highlight in their house in a frame. It's a huge thing, but you don't see that picture if they're on covers of like. Glamour magazine and covers of all sorts of other magazines, and you don't see that, right? It's like everybody knows.
I've seen the frames in the houses. I don't know whether they frame them and put them up right before I come over.
No,
we don't know the answer to that question, but I have to. I'm going to assume that that's not the case. But yes,
I'm not blowing smoke up your ass with that. I don't think so. I think that's like huge. So that's what I'm saying. Like I think you guys have the power to literally break an artist. Like like American Idol, for example, or like The Voice, or what all these shows. Even with all that exposure, right? They're going out there, they're singing, and millions of people are watching, voting. They see the retention's constant. Very few. I mean, of course, you have breakout stars, but like 90% of those people you never hear from again, right? But yeah, if they were like, because people don't take it seriously, But if they're with you guys, if you guys back somebody or like. Promoted somebody, people automatically, like it's kind of like ingrained in your head that, oh my God, that's like that person has something. That person there's a more meaning behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it means you've reached a certain level.
Yeah.
But I also want to say that we can't like back to what I was saying before about like leveraging the history, but taking risks and moving forward and making sure that the quality of work is there and that we're not just kind of doing what has been done. Like we can't rest on our laurels, and I really do wish and I'm not going to, but our cover after this one I think is so.
Who is it? You can't tell me. It won't be. It might be aired like later on. Come on.
I'm getting a no from Rebecca. I'm not going to say, but
what is it? A boy or a girl?
It's multiple girls. That's the most I'll say.
It's not Fifth Harmony, is it? I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, it's not. But
I was joking.
The point is, it like represents like everything we're doing, and it's the type of thing that we just never would have done, and it's just a pushing the limits. And look, maybe it won't work, and maybe people will be like, but you got to keep evolving, and for all like all the amazing stuff that's happened, like we have to use that, but we have to take risks, and we're not like where we can be yet.
Where do you want to be? Like, what's your goal? Where do you want to be? What's your vision?
I think that we're a content company. We are journalists and tell stories, and we've done an incredible job of that in terms of putting out some of the most recognized and awarded magazine features in our history. I think we need to take that same level of just editorial excellence and apply it to like multi-platform storytelling. So in 5 years from now, I want us to be producing the best documentaries that you'll see. I want our Instagram stories, even like if we have TikTok, like our TikTok stories to be like the most compelling. And look, some things are worth our time and resources and some aren't. Like you have to be smart about where you take your shots. But we should be, as a multi-platform business, in the moving image, in the static image, in the written word, in the spoken word. So like we have a deal with Audible, we deal with Spotify for podcasts and audiobooks. We need to be among the best, if not the best, kind of multi-platform journalists that there are. And then from there, build all sorts of things around it. So I want to have we have a robust events business, but I want it to be like 3 or 4 times the size. We have a global licensing business, but I want it to be 3 or 4 times the size. But the core, the primary thing that we do and that where our opportunity lies is being outstanding journalists across multiple different platforms.
That was well said. Now, when you were younger, you're saying that you loved to you're a songwriter, you play instruments. Did you want to do that for your main living, I guess you would call it? Like, did you want to follow that path more? And then this whole opportunity, how did it happen that 10 years when you were 20 years old, what did you want to do?
Yeah, I think at that time I was I was in college when I was 20 and I was like having hilarious experience, making great friendships and singing and playing. And
you had a band or?
I did at the time. Yeah.
What kind of band was it?
It was like we played like country music, which was funny, but.
Really?
Yeah. And no, I wasn't trying to.
What do you play? You play the guitar? Or
yeah, I play the guitar.
Do you play the piano also?
I can poorly, but
okay.
I'm much better at the guitar. I don't know. I wasn't really thinking in long-term life terms at that point. I knew that I wanted to do something that I loved. That was kind of and I'm fortunate enough to have been able to do that. There's a lot of people that can't think that way, that have to do things to get by. So I felt very lucky and fortunate that I was able to take a path that made me happy, that I wanted to work really hard at because I wanted to and loved to, not that I just had to.
Did your dad want you to kind of follow in his footsteps? Because that's typically, he didn't want you to. Yeah,
he told me he was like this. He was like, he understood that it was a nice thing to do for a second, but he was like, this is going nowhere. And I was like, I don't want it to go anywhere. But yeah, he was like, and he was like, not only is it going nowhere, I wouldn't even want you to have the burden of having to, he was like, it's a no. And he's a tough guy. But then it just kind of all fell into place. And really, as I said, we were starting kind of a new business within the business. The digital thing was nothing at the time.
I remember, yeah.
So it was almost like a startup within this sort of iconic brand and company. And yeah, the growth was there. And then he eventually did ask me to do this.
To do it, yeah. Do you have brothers or sisters? Or?
Yeah, I have 2 older brothers and then I have 3 little half siblings.
Oh, how old are your brothers?
My older brothers, who are my full brothers, are 33 and 34.
And are they involved in the business at all?
No. My middle brother is a very successful photographer and he has shot a couple covers, some of our best covers in the last 10 years or so. He did the beautiful one of Adele where she's wearing no makeup and she's got a shot. Yes. It was stunning. He did the one of Taylor Swift on the beach. So he's a super talent, but no, he's not involved in the business beyond that. And my oldest brother's not involved at all.
Wow. So it's all you. All you. And the half brothers and sisters are too young yet, huh?
They're 12 and 13.
Yeah. So maybe they'll be an intern in a few years. Okay.
I will note it's not a family business anymore. We're
exactly. Exactly.
They're going to have to apply their internship with me.
All right. So I think you got it right. I see someone giving me let's move it along, sister kind of thing. Well, you've been fun. Thank you for coming on Habits and Hustle. I didn't even really properly introduce you, but I'll fix that later. And
you'll edit the entire thing.
I'm not going to edit. Actually, you know what? I don't edit it at all. I just normally say, hi, today, on Habits and Hustle, I have Gus Wenner, who is the, basically the COO of Rolling Stone. But at this time, I just didn't do it. But I don't edit it at all. So what it is what it is, you know?
Well,
can I ask you one fast question? What's your favorite cover of all time that you liked?
For me,
Bob Dylan.
No, for me it was Obama. When he was running, Peter Yang took the photograph and he's looking down and smiling, and it's just the logo. I don't think there's even any cover lines. Maybe it just says like one thing about Obama. And he's smiling and he's looking down, and it's just like, it captured the moment so unbelievably well. Like it was so powerful. And the photographer had like 5 minutes with him. Like he was like going through all these tents and he was doing all this stuff. But like, I remember the photo director telling me that I think she had put on like Fleetwood Mac or like something where like it like all of a sudden like Obama was just like at ease. And you should look, or anyone listening should look up at this cover. Just type in like Obama, Peter Yang, Rolling Stone. And it's the one where he's smiling, looking down. The light is beautiful. And that was the first time I ever voted. And it was just, it probably speaks to me more than any cover.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny how but you said he had the music playing. Music does transpire every emotion, right? And feeling, right? If he had something else on, maybe you wouldn't even get that cover, right? If it was like some other song playing, right? And then one other thing, and I forgot what it was, of course, but that's how it works. How do people, are you active on like you personally active on social media? Oh, I know what I want to ask you before you run off. Because you're a songwriter, do you actually write some actual articles? Are you a journalist as well? Can you write?
That's how I started. I went at Rolling Stone. I like started writing stories and whatever before I went into that was like when I was in school. And but no, I don't do it much now because the running of the business is so time consuming and but it's something that is on my mind. I mean, try to be as curious as possible. I love, one of the great parts of my job is being able to spend time with some of the most interesting people in the world. And so I think that in the next bit, I'll probably start to do a little bit more of it.
I'm going to ask you one more question because it's important. Who are the two of the top two most interesting people that you've really had, like that you met throughout this whole thing?
Whoa.
Two. I don't normally do like a 20-minute interview. It's hard for me to just be like, No,
that's a really, layer. I wish I could really think about that because it's such a good question. And for me, as I said, like one of my favorite things that I'm able to do, God, I don't know. Even this past week, I spent 2 hours with Michael Rapino, who runs Live Nation, who like just blew me away with his philosophy about running a business and how he leads his employees and how he's built the thing into what it is today. And I'm not saying he's my number one answer, but that was this week, and I walked away blown away.
I know. I think that like because you're exposed so much, you kind of you don't even maybe realize, right? Like maybe another person, Michael Rapino, Live Nation.
Well, the musicians are. I mean, there's so many fascinating people. I mean, I was with Wyclef recently, and just like asking him about how he wrote the song "Perfect Gentleman." I don't know if you know that one, but
no, I don't.
It's about a stripper. He's in a strip club, and it's a really good song. You should listen to it.
I will.
He told me the whole story that it was actually based on a real girl that he had met in a strip club, and that he ran into her years later, somewhere interesting, like maybe in Africa or something like that. And the girl came up, or he didn't run into her. He was somewhere, and the girl said, "It's." In the song he says her name. I can't remember the name of the song, but the girl comes up to him and says, I gave you that lap dance, and I'm married now, and I'm a doctor or something. I'm probably getting the story a little wrong, but it was something along those lines. And that's incredible, That is a wild story, and what came out of it is such a good song. So, yeah, across the board, there's fascinating people, and it's one thing to hear their stories and talk to them and find out about that, but it's another thing to also collaborate with them and work on projects and build things with those people. And there's so that's the real joy.
And then one more part. Have you ever been really disappointed with somebody that you thought would be something, and then you met them and you're like, oh, fuck, this is not at all? Like,
Constantly.
How often does that happen? Probably 9 out of 10 times?
No, I don't know.
But it happens a lot.
I get disappointed myself. You know what? You gotta.
I have a feeling you're not the kind of person who's going to tell me who it is if I say who really was like not what you hoped it would be.
I will in 5 minutes once we are done.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Well, you've been great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe when I go back to New York, we can maybe do a longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
You're great. Thank you, everybody. Go buy the Lizzo cover. And if it's
Fifth Harmony.
Yeah, Fifth Harmony, exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit Nest.